Welcome to another This Week in Coworking discussion.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to the This Week in Coworking podcast feed. I am your host, Hector Colonis, and today we have a very special episode for you. We're going to talk to Jon Thompson, who is the creator, producer, director behind a really cool miniseries that's coming out called Coworking. Jon, how are you?
I'm doing great. No, thanks for the introduction.
Great to have you here. So before we dive into exactly what you're producing right now, what you're creating, tell folks a little bit of history about yourself. What do you do in the world? Where do you live? Where are you calling in from?
Yeah, so firstly, I'm calling in from Cincinnati, Ohio, in a invite-only co-working space called The Warehouse. My background is in marketing and social media. I started at the USTA and the US Open about 15 years ago in New York. After that, I was at Snapchat in their early years, around 2014-15. Went back to New York and started working in CPG and retail at Mars and M&M's. Moved to Cincinnati, where I am now. Stayed in retail at Kroger, was leading their social there, and then went over to the agency side at Ogilvy for a few years before actually going full-time into Web3 and crypto, which I gotten pretty deep into around 2019, somewhere around there. So now I do social media marketing for big brands, and I guess on the side, but I sometimes feel like my full time is creating and producing this new series.
And so you've obviously spent a lot of time in the creative side of the world, in the agency, in the social media world. When did you first use a co-working space? Or when did your world overlap with the co-working world?
Yeah, so I was in New York, went to LA, which I was at Snapchat, and then moved back to New York after Snapchat. And I was working at Mars and for the M&M's brand. Their office is out in Hackettstown, about 2 hours out of the city. But when they were looking at putting together a social media and digital team, they really wanted to tap into the creative people that lived in New York City. And so we actually worked out of a WeWork space in Soho, while we were basically bringing the social media in-house and away from the agency. So it was myself, three other people working in a WeWork space with a 10 by 10 room that we use as a studio. So we were shooting content every day based on what was trending online, if there were challenges that were going on that we could kind of be a part of, participate in. And then for the latter 6 hours of the day, it's strategy, coming up with different ideas, things like that. But yeah, all within a WeWork space where probably hundreds of other businesses.
And so you started with your first co-working experience at a WeWork. You're now at an invite-only co-working space in Ohio. Any other co-working spaces in your journey as you kind of moved around working in the agency and the creative world?
When I was working for a crypto company out of London, I was there for about two weeks out of every month for about a year. And they were working out of a co-working space. And during that time, I was also in a co-working space. And I've been in this co-working space in Cincinnati for the last 3 to 4 years, with about working probably 2 to 3 different jobs out of this space.
All right. So great career in creative marketing. Why do a mini series now? Like, what drew you to creating a mini series, or especially this mini series? Is it something you just came up with now, or is it something that you've been thinking about for a while as you moved between these spaces?
Yeah, so I mean, the micro series, micro dramas, verticals, have been kind of rapidly growing over the last year. And a lot of that is because of brand involvement. For me, working on the brand side, growing brands for the last 15 years and telling stories, it seemed like a kind of a great format to kind of go after. For the last 10 or so years on the side, I have been writing pilots and features. And so career-wise, I've really been looking for something kind of different, something where I can continue to tell stories and do that in a longer form than 15 to 30 seconds, but then also something that I can actually create myself. I have written a lot of pilots and features, and it takes quite a bit of money to create those, but I've been writing for 10 years. I haven't created something, seen it on screen but I can do that with this micro series, which it's 8 episodes, around 2 to 3 minutes apiece, and I can work with local talent, local brands to make that production come to life, and that's what we did.
I love that. So let's dig into exactly what this micro series or vertical. You call them vertical. I'm assuming that just means you record them in a
Yeah, to me, the shot
vertical.
9 by 16 in vertical. So for reels, talks, or YouTube shorts.
And so it's about two-ish, you said 2 to 3 minutes per episode, eight-ish episodes in the first season. It's called Coworking. And what exactly is the series about?
Yeah, I mean, first we want to kind of bring out the different personalities, different types of companies that are in co-working spaces. And then when thinking about it and how do you create conflict, it was times in a co-working space there's that are industry or even potentially competitors. So that's the route that I went when writing it, is two competing startups. They're IV hydration drinks. They're both competing for the same investment, and their offices are right across from each other. Had this kind of for the last few years, and they have verge of disinvestment. But the beginning of the season starts, we see that the investment they thought was theirs is not quite theirs, and there's another company that is actually coming from New York that is more swaggy, more polished, and has investment that is coming to their round of investment. So they've come in and they've moved into this co-working space right across the hall. And so episodes of these two competing startups, different personalities. In addition to those two competing startups, there are 3 to 4 other characters who are kind of like cooler characters. There's a community manager, there's a therapist that works out of there, and then there's a wellness influencer. Kind of all of these personalities are all within the same space, and it all play out throughout the season.
That sounds fantastic. I cannot wait to watch it. So where can people watch it? When is it coming out? When can people subscribe?
Yep. So it will be across all social channels. So one thing we've been really good about and we've thought about the whole time is how do we continue to capture as much content as we can, even outside of the actual series and that season. So if you go to Instagram at Coworking Micro, you can find a lot of our behind the scenes, from pictures from on set, from our actors, the cast and crew, from them posting, collaborating with them in their pages. Of the 9 core cast members, 4 of them are local influencers. So also them being a part of it also helps to kind of spread and help our audience, that reach and engagement as well. And so right now you can go see kind of what the vibe of the show is, the vibe of the cast, how we're putting it together on Instagram. But once we start releasing the seasons, they'll be across all the platforms. So Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. And right now, one of the things we're thinking about is what's the best way to potentially post this on LinkedIn? Like, could we partner with an existing presence? Right now, it's myself as the creator posting about kind of updates on what we're doing. But I think that out of really all of the micro series and micro dramas that I've seen out there, there are not that would make sense on LinkedIn, but this one would more than make sense on LinkedIn because it's really about the modern chaos of the modern work life. And it would be a great thing to see play out on LinkedIn. And I've seen a lot more people being more creative on LinkedIn, whether it's a satire page or doing more video. I think video across all of it is working great right now.
I love that. And just to add to the chaos, I am more than happy to share that from the This Week in Co-working channels on LinkedIn. We have a fairly decent reach on that platform. So I'm more than happy to help distribute that, just to kind of throw it into the mix and kind of get more people to watch this and get involved with the cast. So you did mention that there were 4 local influencers, or was it 5 local influencers?
Well, so there's 5 or 6 that are involved with the whole series. 4 who are actually casted in the series. The 2 leads are actually both local influencer. One named David Weissong, who is a content creator for The Inquirer, and then the other, his name is Freddie Mack, and he is a local radio DJ, which is kind of one of those voices that everybody knows when you hear it. And so he's someone he's been posting a lot of content. Both of them posting a lot of content on their pages, kind of about their personal life. And so they were really excited to find out about this series and kind of show what they can do other than their own content creating, which I've seen a lot of content creators kind of seeking more of those opportunities now. How do we take our content to the next level? How
Mhm.
can we do more narrative content? So yeah, a couple of those are a couple of the influencers. A couple of our actors are rep by agencies. Then we have one of our producers. His name is Roman, and he has like 150,000 followers just on Instagram. He's a Nat Geo photographer, and he actually did most behind the scenes photography on set. We're having our premiere mid-August at Union Hall Co-working, so he'll be doing all the photos there as well. So we have a nice set of casting crew who are all very active and willing to help to push the show, which is really important when it comes to verticals and micro series.
Awesome. So you mentioned Union Hall. I'm so happy that you are recording in a real co-working space. Tell us more about how it landed up being Union Hall. Like, did you just call them up and be like, "Hey, we want to film a micro series about co-working," or how did that like come together?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny how you said it, and I think people like say it like that or hear it like that. It makes it kind of sound like it's something that's hard to do, and yeah, it's hard to raise money. It's hard to align with a brand or organization's goal. So no, it's not always easy. But no, I think the main thing is asking, is figuring out what that angle is. And for us, it was a show called Co-working. We wanted a co-working space to shoot it in. That was kind of never an option to figure out some other space because we're the low budget production and we can't really build like that. So I had this script. Yeah, I know that there's a lot of brands and organizations are jumping into this format. So it was reaching out to a contact that I had there who's the director of networking and setting a meeting with her and say, I have this great idea. Didn't know what the idea was and say, I would love to just meet with you for 15 to 30 minutes. So I went there, sat down with her, and within the first 10 minutes, she was sold and just said, I need to take it to our director of marketing and take it to our CEO and get their thoughts. And before I even got back to my co-working space, she was like, hey, let's set up a meeting for next week and talk about this more. And so, yeah, the ask was for some initial funding because we had this idea, this script. We had a minimum amount that we knew that if we could shoot it for. And so we pitched it as this series that could show off your co-working space, could talk about Cincinnati and the entrepreneur and startup community, which is what Centrifuge does. And they were really sold on from that moment. And so from there, it gave us some initial funding, and just as important, they kind of gave us free reign of their co-working space. They sat down with us and said, hey, here are all of our open dates. You take whatever you want and you need, and worked it out. And then we did our rehearsal there. We did a few walkthroughs, and then it was shot there Friday, Saturday, Sunday, about 3 12 hours days, which ended with a party on the rooftop where we invited friends, family, influencers, and it was actually a shot that was really in the script that we used the guests as extras to shoot. And so yeah, we had food, alcohol from a local brewery, and that was all free because it was people that, again, that we reached out to, pitched, and they loved the idea. And so I mean, Centrifuge gave us that initial funding, but I did that 10 more times and got 8 to 9 more brands on, got more funding, more in kind. So we didn't have to. We paid like $100 total for food, which is one of the biggest
Yep.
costs. And obviously, we sold one of our characters, who's a wellness influencer, to $100 million running an athletic brand here called Sprints. And we said, hey, she will wear your outfits every time that she's on screen, and we'll give you a shout out. And that was some of the support and funding that we got as well. So it was about being really creative, tapping into that startup and entrepreneur and brand community here around Cincinnati to make it happen.
I love that. And it's such a cool way that like just the meta of creating a co-working series required all the hustle that goes into running co-working spaces. So I absolutely love that.
And I didn't mention this, but I had this script, but I don't know how to use a camera and shoot. I can direct, but I can't use a camera. But while talking about the show, someone who works in the next room over in the co-working space that I'm in heard about it, loved the idea, and he's been looking for more things that he can do where he's not chasing business. And he said, I'm on. And so he's my partner for the series. And then he brought some of his teammates on, which are 3 other people who work in the co-working space. And then we have a song that's in the The song that's in the series is a music artist that works out of the co-working space in a sound booth that we have here. So we found there's 7 or 8 people who are a part of the series that are all found inside of this co-working space.
I love that so much. And it's like taking the essence of what happens in a co-working space to make a series about what happens in a co-working space. I
Yeah.
love full circle moments. Obviously, season 1 is now in post-production. It's ready. You're rolling it out. You did mention that you're doing a watch party over at Union Hall for the opening, and then it's going to go online. My question to you is, how can other co-working spaces around the world get involved? Like, if you could wave a magic wand and the co-working world could deliver, what would you ask for?
I think for us, I think showing what it's like working in a co-working space, what that chaos is, or what the teamwork or competitive nature is inside of the space. And so I would love for the co-working spaces, people who work in co-working spaces, to adopt this as sort of their story, help share it in that way, help bring awareness and say, oh, the series starts literally with hearing the beep of a printer that is broken. And I think everybody in a co-working space has heard that. So I think that those sort of things kind of resonate. It's a comedy at some points, satire, and I think that people obviously resonate with that as well. We plan on the episodes coming out every Monday, sometime right before or around lunch. Like you said, it's a 2 to 3 minutes episode. And just a short background on that, it's because of YouTube Shorts. The max for that is 3 minutes. And so when people make micros, make them under 3. The other platforms don't care as much, but that's the reason to stay there. But so, yeah, hosting some sort of watch parties. I'm open to getting on virtual meetings and virtual Q&As, answering questions, talking to creatives, founders, about that, how they can maybe pitch their ideas. When it comes to this season, promoting and potentially finding like a presenting sponsor or partner, that's something we're open to if you think that what we're doing aligns with what you're doing. When it comes to future seasons, one of the things I know that we spoke about in the previous conversations is we are looking now at, we definitely, see there being a season 2. What are some new companies or industries that we can introduce in the story that are real companies that we can help tell their story through this. So that was one of the reasons of creating this ourselves in this first season, is so we can show it off and say, hey, like, are you a brand? This is something that you can do, whether you want to plug into what we're doing here, or do you want to create your own? We can help you create your own series. We've talked about maybe some kind of contest or competition to help put themselves in that position for season 2 to see how we can work on something. So there are many, many different ways that, whether it's anything from funding to marketing to distribution, to help get eyes on the series and what we're doing.
That sounds great. And I'm going to definitely put this in front of all the folks that we reach out to and who listen to the episode, read the newsletter. Hopefully they all reach out to you. I'm also going to put Instagram in the show notes and in the description, as well as link to your LinkedIn. Also, when you confirmed your launch date over at the newsletter, we will also put out a timer, maybe even put it on our homepage, saying that it's X many days and hours until the episode drops, so we can point people at that as well. Jon, appreciate you telling the story of co-working spaces, of you highlighting maybe some of the satirical part of it, but also for joining us and telling us a bit more about what goes into creating the series and why you did it.
No, thank you for having me. I look forward to connecting with your audience over this series, and also just any feedback that they may have on how we tell the story as well, and how we'll move forward in future seasons and whatever we do with the show.
Amazing. I look forward to seeing that, and I look forward to seeing all of you at any of the virtual watch parties that I'm pretty sure we'll end up sharing these videos with each other on every Slack group we're in and every WhatsApp group we're in. So I look forward to seeing all of that. We'll be back in your podcast feed shortly. Until then, take care, everybody, and keep kicking butt out there.
Great. Thank you.